the Madman!
Welcome one, welcome all. It's time for another week of custom Hearthstone top cards of the week. So let's start with Quest Giver. 2 mana 2/3, battle cry, choose a friendly minion. It goes dormant for 2 turns. When it awakens, add 2 coins to your hand. That's actually really cool. I quite like it. It's the first card we're seeing. A design 5 stars, balance 5 stars, asterisk. I think that this card will need to come out after Hela, Matron Protectorate rotates out. Because on turn 10, you play Hela, then you play Quest Giver, and then 2 turns from there, your Hela awakes, you toss out your coins, you toss out your spells, you have like a full 12 mana to sling spells and potentially kill your opponent with, which may or may not be too good. Leans towards too good, too uninteractive, I'd say. I like the flavor of it where you're basically sending your minion out on a quest and it basically can't act while it's out questing for you, and then when it comes back it brings in the money. There are certainly combos you can do with minions like Hela that you want to have a full mana set on, so this will always be dangerous. Nonetheless, it is a cool card though. Perhaps could get nerfed to 1 coin. It does limit some design space. Lots of planning will be required if a card like Quest Giver is ever printed. That much I'll say. Next up, we got a new keyword, Flipside. The idea of this mechanic is demonstrated in Fireworks Fan / Fiery Fanfare. Cool little wordplay on the name, by the way. Small bonus points for that. Fireworks Fan is a 5 mana 3/4 with Flipside, and it has a battle cry. If you're holding a fire spell, deal 2 damage to all enemies. The flip side of the card is a spell, a fire spell, 2 mana, deal 3 damage. The idea of Flipside is when you drag the card to your deck, you can always flip it to the other side. This is a 0 mana cost ability, so you can do it as many times as you want. Flipside comes with an interesting side effect that because the card is double-sided, your opponent will be able to see what card you're holding. They'll see the back side of the card. I'm giving the design 4 stars. The balance of this particular card I'm giving 5 stars to, despite the fact that, and this also probably hit the design score a little bit, it's a neutral 2 mana deal 3 fire spell. That's probably not good for the health of the game for 2 reasons. 1, this is very similar to Choose 1, which is in the Druid wheelhouse. 2, like perhaps there is a more elegant way of designing a card like this instead of just printing 2 cards on the same card. We're actually going to, and this is quite the coincidence, see another way that this could be implemented, and I'll talk more about it later. Would you like $34? I want you to get this money, and thank you to the sponsor of this video, Weeble, for providing a great promotion. Use my link below, deposit at least 1 penny, and they're going to give you 6 free stocks up to $12,600 in value, minimum $34. And keeping it real, you're probably going to get a little bit more than $34 unless you're extremely lucky. But hey, this is like the easiest $34 of your life. Now, I am a very big believer in investing. I've made a few videos about it, and I even have a Patreon where I talk about how I'm personally investing. And I would hope that everyone is investing early and often. It is great to look out for your financial success in the future. And to do that, you gotta get started now. They're bribing you with free money. Go do it. It's a really good UI. I personally use it in order to track my portfolio because you can configure it to show whatever you want. You get your $34 free, you put it into a well-diversified low-cost index fund, such as VTI, you wait 1 or 2 decades, again, setting very realistic expectations here, keeping it real, and then poof, it's $100! And hey, let's say you're super rich out there, you don't even care about this $34. Well, when you sign up, you're also gonna give me even more money. If you like my content, great way to give you and me a lot of money. So thank you again, Weeble, for the great promotion. Use the link below, sign up, get your free money. Value for all. We've got Tunneling Jormungandr for Hunter, 5 mana 3/6 beast with stealth, immune while stealthed. Design 3 stars, balance 5 stars. I originally rated this card much lower in design. Like, my first instinct was, 1 star. Boo. This is very, very oppressive. You play the card, your opponent can't do anything to it, they just feel bad while you buff it up a bunch of times, and then you eventually one turn kill them. But then I started realizing, wait, this kind of already exists with something like Mr. Smite and Cariel buffing the smite in your hand. At least Tunneling Jormungandr can be interacted with, mass AoE, like random destroy effects, stuff like that. Also, hunters do not actually have much buff. But the problem is this limits design space quite a bit as well, because you can't print beast buffs that are too good for hunter, and I believe that hunters having good beast buffs is a good mechanic. Worth noting is that immune while stealth would mean that the first attack the Tunneling Jormungandr makes will be immune, since you do not de-stealth until you complete your attack. This makes the card a lot like Gangplank Diver, except you don't have to attack with it the turn afterwards. You could keep this thing stealthed, unlike a Gangplank Diver, though it's not permanently immune while attacking. So, a little bit weaker, a little bit stronger than Gangplank Diver. Even though there's that oppressive idea where you can just put this card in play, buff it a bunch of times, then in one turn kill your opponent, it's actually very impractical to do that with Hunter right now. Probably takes too much work. You might run into the random destroy effect. So it actually is balanced, but I think it limits design space too much, and I wouldn't want to see a card like this printed. Also, I have a feeling that it just feels too bad for your opponent to just put this on the board, and then you're like, oh, I can't deal with this, as your opponent just buffs it, if that world ever were to come true. Pandora! You can add 1 card from another class to your deck. 2 mana 3/2. Oh boy. Design. You know, I always give everything at least 1 star. I'm making an exception for this card. This card and this card alone gets a design 0 stars and balance 0 stars. Welcome to a new record. This card is absolutely ludicrous. You might think, oh, how bad could it be adding 1 card from another class to your deck? So the purpose of this card is it's in gameplay, it's just a 2 mana 3/2. In the deck construction screen, you're going to be able to add 1 card of any other class to your deck. How bad could that be? Well, you know, the Priest quest is only bad because it's in Priest. What if that Priest quest was in Warrior? What if the Demon Hunter quest was in Warlock, where you naturally have the life tap ability? There's so many cards, actually, that break the game because they're in the wrong class. Pandora breaks the game of Hearthstone. And so there is no way something like this ever could or should happen. But you know what? We can take a moment to look back a little bit and appreciate the balance of having 10 different classes, all with their specific limitations. And it's because these classes have limitations and the entire card set is designed with the intent of, oh, we can't break that limitation, that a card like Pandora could never exist. Damaged Cauldron. 2 mana 0/6 with Taunt. Whenever this takes damage, cast a random spell with cost equal to the damage taken. Design 3 stars, balance 1 star. This card suffers from the classic early game cards shouldn't have RNG effects that decide the game, and Damage Cauldron is one of those. Well, first of all, it's just too powerful because on 6 health, basically you're paying 2 mana and you're either going to trade 1 for 1 for some sort of removal, or you're going to get at least 1 6-cost spell off for 2 mana. Yeah, it's random. The targets are random, but just casting a spell worth 6 for 2 is really insane. Also, you get 6 health because your opponent had to attack the taunted damaged cauldron. You could self-damage it for 1 mana and then have it cast a 1 mana spell. Since the major design flaw is that there's too much early game RNG in it, the ways I could see balancing it would be making the health much lower, such as 2 for example, or making the mana cost substantially higher, such as 4, maybe even 5 with the current health amount. So cool idea, too powerful as is, but perhaps not without the ability to salvage it. Tiniest Toys, a Shaman 1 mana card, which summons 2 random 2-cost minions, make them 1/1. Design 2 stars, balance 4 stars. At the end of the day, it's a 1 mana summon 2 1/1s with cool little flair. The 1/1s come with abilities. The problem is the card is overpowered, and only slightly so, because sometimes, and this is where the design gets hurt, sometimes you get your Nerubian egg plus another 1/1 for 1 mana, and then you win the game. And boy, are people not going to appreciate that. RNG effects that win the game should not be put at 1 mana. A very similar story to Damaged Cauldron, pretty much. I don't actually think this can be salvaged in any way, because, the early game RNG is just too big an effect on such a low mana cost card, which is just efficient by default. And if you made it inefficient, then the card would just suck. Cute idea, but there's a reason why Tiny Toys cost 6. Next up, we have Samuro the Samurai, a 4 mana 4/6 battlecry. Change each player's language settings to Japanese. And here's where we introduce meme 5 stars out of 5. I chuckled. Balanced, in theory, at a high enough level. Players will know what the cards do and won't have to check them, but it is hilarious to think of the newer player or even the casual player who doesn't know all the cards. Maybe you play a sick deck which has crazy effects that aren't very popular in the meta. You play Samuro the Samurai to disguise all their effects, and then your opponent is left guessing what in the world just happened. Next up, it's the Harvest mechanic. And this is the Trump card of the week. Harvest is supposed to be the Death Knight unique keyword. Obviously, we would have no idea what a Death Knight's hero power would be, and what the flavor of a Death Knight would do, what the card pool of a Death Knight would do. However, I think that this ability is quite cool, and it doesn't even have to go into Death Knight. It could be slotted into any class, or perhaps into just all classes. Harvest and then a mana cost. Drag this into your deck to spend X mana and to destroy it and do something. So in the case of the basic Skeletal Smith cards, a 2 mana 3/2. With Harvest 2, draw a weapon, give it +2 attack, which means if it's in your hand, you could pay 2 mana to draw a weapon and give it +2 attack. Or you could play it as a 2 mana 3/2, and then you could harvest it off of the battlefield to draw a weapon and give it +2 attack. Now, it would seem very fringe, the case that you would want to harvest a card that you've already spent mana putting onto the battlefield, but there might be times where that's relevant. Maybe there's like a harvest lovers, so that's all great. But what if this mechanic were repurposed into something like flexible? And this is where we kind of revisit the idea of Flipside. What if we just printed the other card effect onto this card? Skeletal Smith, it can be a 2 mana 3/2. It could also instead be draw a weapon, give it +2 attack. You'd have to watch out for the amount of text that you did. You'd pretty much have to put this on basic types of spells or basic statted minions for the most part. But it would be cool to be able to always have either that base minion on curve or base spell effect, or the harvest option. And certainly you could put a mechanic on the actual minion or the spell itself. There's like maybe 2 lines of text that you could do for the minion/spell, 2 lines of text you could do for the harvest. But yeah, I think this is a better way of displaying the information than Flipside is. Next up, there's Wailing Whelp. 1 mana, 1/1 dragon, battle cry. If you are not holding a dragon, draw one. Design 5 stars, balance 3 stars. I think this is very flavorful, where if you are holding a dragon is an actual mechanic. And if you are not holding a dragon, therefore is a pretty cool mechanic as well. Wailing Whelp it finds you that dragon, but it has the drawback of where if you're actually playing a dragon deck and you're holding dragons, Wailing Whelp sucks. Love the idea of the whelp basically calling for its mommy because it's all alone. That is exactly what a baby dragon would do. Very cool. Balance is a little bit off because it's such a direct tutor, and a lot of the dragons are cards you want to tutor for. Old Kazaku-san, like imagine if Wailing Whelp was around with old Kazaku-san, you could just find the Kazaku-san in your deck and play it without having the dragon requirement, and then pow, you'd turn your deck into treasures. Find it very consistently and fast with Wailing Whelp. That's a problem. Multiple dragons that you might want to tutor, and being such a direct tutor, 1/1/1, you don't have to run anything other than like having only a few dragons in your deck, and then you Wailing Whelp into those. Those would be pretty good. You'd probably only want to put 1 Wailing Whelp in your deck so you didn't end up with both, but maybe you also just put 2 of them in your deck and you put like a few key dragons that are really overpowered and then you Wailing Whelp the dragon. Basically 1 mana tutor dragon is too good. Even with the restriction that you can't play that many dragons, that might not be a restriction. You just play the really good dragons. Also worth noting that this might be too good while Kazaku-san is in standard, but you could print this card post Kazaku-san. I think the balance change at least is fairly straightforward to do, to change. It could be 2 mana, 1/2. Finally, we have a delightful flavor card, Broken Axe. Warrior, 3 mana, 5 attack, 0 durability weapon. With Death Rattle, summon a 2/5 blacksmith that can fix this. So under normal play, your Broken Axe will immediately break and die when you play it, and summon the 2/5 blacksmith, which is the old blacksmith. Death Rattle, add a 5/2 fixed axe to your hand. The fixed axe is a 3 mana 5/2, so basically Arcanite Reaper with a 2 mana discount. Design 5 stars, balance 3 stars. I wrestled with myself on whether or not I was actually going to give the design a 5-star here. Like, is Broken Axe worth the card? Why not just skip that step and have Old Blacksmith? Was my original idea. And I decided there's enough reason that Broken Axe being its own individual card is actually kind of cool. Even if there's no way to like buff the Broken Axe, it tells a story where your axe is broken, you send it to the blacksmith, she fixes the axe for you. Very nice, very cool. The fixed axe is the same cost as the broken axe. It has its durability repaired. You know, what a nice little story. Sure, it's worth the Broken Axe card being the card instead of the old blacksmith, even though there's a extra layer of complexity. There's a gameplay side to it too, because you could buff the Broken Axe with like +1/+1, and then it's a 6/1. And then when it dies, you still summon the old blacksmith, and then she still fixes it to your fixed axe. Now, the main problem is the balance is a bit too strong right now, in that the 3 mana 5/2 fixed axe is quite strong. I was debating whether or not to change the mana cost on the fixed axe, but it seems like it should match the broken axe mana cost. It tells a good story there. In which case, I think having the old blacksmith just lose some stats would probably be good. I'm thinking like 2/3 or 2/2. That way it fits into the general idea of it's a 3 mana 2/2 or 3 mana 2/3 that slow draws you quite a good card. Generally, 3 mana 3/3 is the realm of draw a bad card, like a slightly less than just a draw card. So therefore, since this card draws you a good card, it should have under 3/3 stats. Love this week's custom Hearthstone cards, but you know what's not going to be here next week? The amount of sign-up bonus that you're going to get from Webull. Last call to sign up. Promotion ends at the end of this month, at which point the promotion becomes less good, but you'll still get stuff. But get cracking.